This is Rick Hutchinson, Mountain West Mortgage in Orem, Utah. Some of you have noticed my white hair and asked about my experience as a mortgage loan officer. Before I address that, I want to start by telling you a story, a true story. Many years ago, I was out one Saturday doing some cold calls and stopped by a builder's model home. It was my first time at this location, and neither the realtor or I knew each other from Adam. Now, I've never met a realtor who did not have an established lending relationship with someone, and the same was true on this occasion. We chatted for a few minutes, and because I was out on a Saturday, a day when he said he could never reach his loan officer, he told me he would give me a shot down the road. He was true to his word. A couple of weeks later, he referred a couple to me. I ended up doing a loan for them. It was the first of many transactions with this realtor. And here's the incredible part of the story. About a year and a half later, I looked back and saw that in the prior 12 months, this realtor and I had done 100 loan transactions together. Amazing. Of course, I wasn't always a loan officer. I was born 6 weeks prematurely on an Air Force base in Alaska. I came home from the hospital on my mother's original due date. While still a baby, Dad got out of the Air Force and we moved to the family farm in sunny southern Alberta, Canada. Although quite elderly now, my dad and mom still live on the farm. When I was young, for the most part, we cultivated wheat and barley and also added crops of mustard, flax, corn, alfalfa, canola, and rye. And of course, every year there was a big garden. After graduating from high school, I spent a couple of years in southern England, mostly in Surrey and other counties to the north, west, and south of London. Although I did not realize it at the time, when I visited Stonehenge, I was only about 35 to 40 miles from the ancestral home of my mother's family. I later learned that the Nash family had occupied and been the proprietors of the original Red Lion Inn in West Bennard, Somerset, for over 1,000 years. Upon returning to Canada, I worked for a short time in the customs brokerage business, and then came to Utah to go to school. While in England, I had friends whose parents were realtors. In the spring of 1976, I took a pre-licensing course that was taught by a young realtor by the name of Gary Herbert. He is now the governor of Utah. After passing the licensing exam, I worked as a realtor associate and then a realtor until October 1978, when I was approached to become a mortgage loan officer. Since then, I have worked for more than 28 years as a mortgage loan originator. In addition to that, I spent about 18 months as an escrow closing officer and 5 years as a mortgage compliance auditor. Another story. This may be hard for millennials to believe, but almost 12 of those years were spent with double-digit interest rates in the years between 1978 and 1990. In 1981, we saw mortgage rates peak at about 18 5/8%, with business owners paying somewhere in the range of 24% for short-term business loans. I remember doing a loan for a man who was then the state tax commissioner in Utah, and he was delighted when I was able to offer him a 13% rate. It was his second refinance after buying his home a few years prior to that. I also remember saying to another loan officer after years and years of double-digit rates, if rates ever get below 10% again, I'm going to kiss the ground. At the time, it just seemed utterly impossible to believe that rates would ever become single-digit again, let alone that we would see rates in the 3 to 4% range in later years. And adjustable rate mortgages have starting rates even lower than that. Over the years, I've had many choice and memorable experiences and met thousands of great people. I've had opportunities to manage and even own mortgage companies, but have chosen instead to run my own show. During that time, I am confident I have seen and worked with some of the best and a few of the worst and everything in between. As a result, my slogan is, where experience and opportunity meet. In the year I closed the most transactions, I was delighted to know that I had the highest percentage of realtor-builder business of the 76 loan officers in our company. One last experience now. In the years leading up to the mortgage financial crisis of 2008, there were many companies offering subprime loans, and subsequently many companies who lost millions of dollars when borrowers could not pay the mortgages that they had entered into. I used to say that if a person had a heartbeat, they could get a loan. I firmly believed it was a disservice to provide a loan to someone if they could not afford the mortgage. I remember meeting with a young couple that my wife worked with. All of their friends were buying homes and they wanted to as well, but their credit was not acceptable for what I called A paper. After meeting with them, I discovered the friends in question had all purchased with subprime loans. I encouraged this young couple not to do that, but instead work a 6-month plan and told them I could get them a good loan if they did. They agreed, but after about 3 months, came to me wanting to forget the plan because it was hard to put their affairs in order. I convinced them that we could see the end in sight and they would do better to wait. They reluctantly agreed and finished working the plan, and in return, I was able to get them a far better loan than they had originally qualified for. Here's the best part of the story. About a year after they bought their home, they invited my wife and I to a summer barbecue at their house. And it was there that we learned that every one of their friends who had bought earlier than them had subsequently defaulted and lost their homes to foreclosure. Well, enough stories. If you have mortgage needs or know someone who does, I would love to let experience and opportunity meet together again. Give me a call, and thanks for your time.